Today we're going to do some shredding. However, there's a caveat to this. We're not just going to fill every little millisecond with as many notes as we possibly can. No, we're going to shred, but we're going to shred with emotion. And that means we're going to put some power and feeling behind those fast notes. Now, what I'm going to show you in this video, I'm actually going to share with you my personal formula that I try to adhere to when I'm writing and mapping out my own guitar solos. So this video is actually for three people. For one, it's for you if you write your own music, and of course you're writing your own guitar solos, or if maybe you're in a band and you've got someone else writing the music, but you need to put guitar solos and leads to that music. And also if you're in a cover band, if that's what you do, maybe you play out or you're covering other people's songs and recording them. Sometimes you might not want to play the music, the solo, exactly like the original artist played it. And this is kind of my preference. I like to hear guitar players and musicians kind of put their own twist to it, because if you wanted to hear exactly the way it was played, well, you would just go listen to it on a digital platform or CD or something. Just my personal opinion. But anyway, all three of those types of guitarists, or really anyone who's playing guitar solos that you need to kind of put your own flavor or write that solo, this is going to help you, I believe. And this is also for you guitar players who are kind of at that intermediate to advanced level, meaning you can already play fast or some fast stuff. Then this video is really going to help you. Hang around till the end of the video. I'm going to explain to you why I feel like this is so important, what we're about to go over here, and it'll all make sense. So hang around for that. But right now, I want to jump right into this little formula that I like to use about 80% of the time when I'm writing guitar solos. At a minimum, I want you to think of your guitar solo as 4 different solos, okay? I want you to break your solo out into 4 different parts. In fact, before we even get started here, if you're getting ready to record your guitar solos for a song, or if you're just putting down ideas, I want you to create 4 different tracks in your DAW, 4 different tracks in your studio software there, because again, we're gonna break this up into 4 different parts. And this is the minimal I want you to think about. Now, this is for your main guitar solo, you know, that guitar solo that comes after, typically after the second chorus or the bridge or whatever, kind of towards the last half of the song there. You can apply these concepts to any other solo though, okay? And actually I want you to, and I'll show you kind of how to do that. We'll talk about that in a second. Here's the first part to your solo. I want you to think of your solo as, first of all, having an intro. Now, that intro, you can play fast notes. I know we're talking about, you know, playing fast notes, but making those notes have more emotion and just more impact. You can have the fast playing in that. However, most of the time, I'd say 80% of the time, you may not want to start like right out of the gate with super fast guitar playing, because the intro, I want you to think of the intro as, think of the last epic movie that you've seen, or your favorite epic movie, like a Lord of the Rings movie or Star Wars or whatever movie you want to think of, whatever's your favorite. If you think about it, the intro is really just kind of pulling you into this world. It's opening you up. It's like, hey, I'm taking you from where you're at now into my world. And it builds curiosity, and that's what keeps you watching, right? You watch the intro of an epic movie, you don't get up and go pee in the first 5 minutes because you're like, no, I want to see what happens. This is going somewhere. So that idea, that intro to your guitar solo, is to captivate the listener, and it's to kind of build that curiosity a little bit. It's like, man, this sounds cool. I wonder what's coming next. I better hang around for this. So you want that same feel. You want your listener to have that same feel. You want them to have that same excitement in the intro of your solo. So you want to captivate them right away with that, with a hook. Now, with the intro, and I know I'm spending a lot of time on the intro here, but I think this is a really important part of your guitar solo. In the intro, you also want to cater it to the theme of your song. What are the lyrics about? Or if it's an instrumental, what is the feeling behind the song? What are you trying to relay to the listener? Okay, because it's more than just music, all right? There's got to be some sort of message. Even with instrumental music, there's a message behind that music. So I want you to think about that and make that intro fit what the theme of the song is, what it's saying. Like, is it this really emotional and melodic song? So maybe you start out with some really awesome notes that kind of hang around out there to captivate the listener. Is it an angry song? Is it I'm ticked off at the world today, I'm going to right the wrongs, that sort of thing? I mean, hey, we are talking about metal here. Well, then you may start out with something a bit more aggressive with some wicked bends or something like that. But just think about your intro. Take a step back and just think about the intro, think about the song, the theme, and what do you want the listener to experience in that first part of that solo? How are you going to captivate them and pull them in? The next part to your guitar solo, and we're going to skip pretty far ahead here, don't worry, we'll go back to the middle, but this is your outro. I want you to think of your solo as having an outro. Now, like the intro, if you want to play something fast, because you are at that level, you know, you're a high intermediate to an advanced guitarist, and you do want to show your abilities, you want to showcase that, that's fine. I'm not going to tell you don't do that, but the whole goal of this thing is to try not to get you to shred every millisecond of the entire solo, because we want to add some emotion to this thing, okay? We don't want it to be robotic and, you know, look what I can do, like Stuart on Mad TV. We want to really captivate the listener. That's the whole goal of this. I'll talk more about that later. I'm already starting to talk about that now. Anyway, the outro to the solo, okay? This piece, like the intro, it can be whatever you want, but you want two things. There's two important pieces of the outro of your guitar solo. Number one, you want to leave with a memorable moment, okay? You want to end that solo with something that the listener's gonna be like, oh my God, that was awesome. And then they still have that ringing in their head. They're like, man, that was just a really cool riff or note or whatever. And again, it could be something fast. Oftentimes it might be just like this really killer bend that you do or squeal or something like that you just lead out with, and maybe there's some delay on it to kind of make it overlap a little bit, but it's got to be something epic, something memorable. Number two, to the outro, you're also prepping the listener for the next part of the song, because oftentimes the song doesn't end on the main guitar solo. You usually go back into, sometimes you break down an instrumental part to the song, sometimes you go back into the chorus, or maybe there's a third verse after that, whatever it may be, sometimes a bridge, but you want to capture that memorable moment, you want to take advantage of that, but you also want to lead them into the next part of that song. So this is kind of where, if it's a lyric song, you got to think about, what are the lyrics here? How can I make my outro to the solo fit what's going on lyrically, what we're going to talk about next, okay? Or if it's an instrumental, what's the feel? What am I leaving the listener with? How do I want them to feel after they hear this last part of this song? So you want that solo to lead right into that. So we've got the intro to your guitar solo, we've got the outro, we've got two more pieces left, okay? And I'm going to talk about these simultaneously because they really do fit and coincide with one another, and it may not be one section where it's this and then that. It may be a little this, a little that, a little this, a little that, and so forth. And those two pieces are, you want a melodic part to the solo, you want a melody, okay? And this is kind of like the plot of the movie, if you will. This is kind of like the chorus of a song. You want that melody line, you want something that they're going to remember that by, almost something that they can hum. And I know in metal we don't want to create music that people can hum along or whistle along to or clap to, for that matter. Don't think of it that way. Think of it in the sense that this melody is going to stick in their head. It's what they're going to remember the guitar solo for. And bands like Iron Maiden, they were great, or they are great about playing this way. They have these melody lines in their solos. It's just like, oh my God, those are just hooks. It's like that's the meat of the solo. So you want some type of melody in there that people are really going to remember, and when they hear the song, that melody line is automatically going to be in their head. They're going to be like, oh my God, I remember the solo. And when they hear you play that, if they were to just hear that part of the song, you know, let's say they're just going about their day or they're at the gym or whatever, and all of a sudden that song's playing and they hear that solo right away, they immediately know, like, okay, that's this song, because they remember that melody line. And that's how you hook people. That's how you captivate the listener. Now the final piece to this, okay, the final piece to your solo, this is the part where you can shred. you can wail, you can just put it all out there. This is the part of the solo where you showcase your talent, you showcase that, you put it out there. Here's the thing, if you have the intro, you're enticing them, you're captivating them, you're pulling them into your world. You've got a cool outro because you're kind of sending them on to the next phase. You're ending with something memorable, but you're kind of sending them on, prepping them for the rest of the song, okay? And if you have the melody lines, that's the part that they're actually gonna remember even when your song's not playing. That's gonna be in their head, and that's what you want. When you've got those pieces, and then you add the shredding in there with it, it's like just, I can't even think of a word to describe it, how cool that is. But it just creates this epic guitar solo. So I want you to think about that and, you know, kind of put those pieces together. Now again, the melody, you've got your intro, outro, the melody and the shred part, okay, those can go together. Those can kind of be like overlapped, and maybe you start out at the intro with that little melody part, but you only play a few seconds of it, then you go right into like a really evil shred, you know, you've got this cool wicked sweep arpeggio you play, but then you go back to the same melody or maybe a different melody, whatever you want, and then you shred again. You might alternate those, or you may play a melody after the intro that kind of builds into that shred. And then you finish them off with the outro, or maybe you intro then shred, and the shred goes into this really epic melody because you want them to remember those lines, those guitar parts, and then, you know, finish off with the outro. So either way you want to do that is fine. There's no right or wrong way. This entire video it's not like this is the right way or the wrong way. I'm simply just giving you my personal take on writing guitar solos and having your guitar solo tell a story. Make it like a movie. Make your guitar solo like, you know, like a song within a song. Captivate them with that intro. Give them some melodies that they're gonna remember, that's gonna be stuck in their head. Showcase your talent, shred, and then, you know, kind of leave them with that outro so that they can go into the next part of the song. Just make it this really epic experience for the listener. Now I want to give you just a very quick example. This is a short example, by the way, of one of my own songs on my first album, one of my own solos here. Now this was not the main solo. What you just heard was not the main solo to the song, and the song is called Redemption. It's actually the first track on my very first album that I released way back in 2013 called Apocalyptic Dreams. There are links in the YouTube description for my music and some other cool stuff, so make sure you check those out. This solo, and this is kind of the second example I wanted to give to you. Remember I told you we'd talk about the shorter solos. So this is actually the first main guitar solo in this song. Now you've got like it's an instrumental song, so you've got like a melody that kind of replaces the chorus, but then you start out with this guitar solo. And what I did here, since the solo was shorter, is I actually kind of combined the intro and a little melody piece kind of together. So my intro was that melody. And again, this is because it was a shorter solo. Had it been the longer solo, that may have just been my intro, and I may would have had a different melody. Who knows what I came up with. That song does have a main solo to it. I just couldn't remember how to play it, and I was screwing up, so I'm like, let me just do this short one here. Anyway, hey, at least I'm honest with you guys. So my intro was melodic, so I kind of killed the intro and melody there all in one, again, for a tiny little short solo here. Then I went into this little fast just walk down of notes, kind of hang on that one note a little bit, then I go to kind of a higher shred piece, but then my outro, so there's quite a bit of little shredding or fast notes in there, whatever you want to call it, but the outro was a little bit more melodic, and I'm just hanging on that one note there. So it's kind of like a series of just, you know, smooth notes towards the end there. My point though is when you're using this methodology, when you're using the intro, the outro, you've got some shred in there, and you've got your melodic piece. When you want to use that for shorter solos like I just did, you can kind of combine some of those together, because you may not want to have all four of those pieces in a shorter solo. It might not be enough room for it, but you can still have that same way of thinking and use that concept to have some melodic some melodic notes in there, and have a little shredding as well, and maybe an intro or an outro, however you want to do that. But just kind of think in terms of, well, let me just fit some of these pieces, maybe 2 out of the 4, you can do that, so that might work. This is so crucial, guys, because the problem you face when you become proficient at playing lead, when you start getting into the shred, whether your thing is sweep arpeggio, speed picking, is tapping, you know, alternate, whatever the case is, you're at some level to where you can shred. We all go through having that tendency to, like, man, I want to do this all the time. The problem with that, though, is that's great to see as a guitar player. It's like, okay, that's awesome. I mean, again, it takes immense talent to do that, but it kind of goes back to the Mad TV guy, the guy that's playing the character Stewart, is like, look what I can do. And it becomes, the solo becomes more about you as a guitar player than it does about the most important person, and that's the person listening to your music. Now, if you're playing shred to people that like to listen to shred, that's one thing. Most people that listen to music, though, aren't really listening to music to hear how awesome you are. They're listening to music to escape, okay? They're listening to music to enhance the good time that they're already having, or maybe to get them through a bad time, okay? They're listening to music because they love the music and they love your music. So I want you to think about that more than anything when you're playing a guitar solo. Think about that. And again, it's not that you can't showcase your talents. You absolutely can. But you want your talent to be showcased. And what do I mean by that? Well, if all you're doing is shredding throughout the entire solo, it becomes a look what I can do thing. Okay, it's like, great, okay, you can do cool stuff. What's next? But when you break it up like we just talked about, when you have an intro, you're captivating them, you're pulling them in, you're building up that curiosity. I wonder what's next, okay? You've got the outro leading them into the next good thing that's coming, and you've got some melodies. When you've got those pieces in there, then you break out that shred, and hey, listen, the majority of your solo could be shred, okay? But as long as you have some of those other pieces in there, when you put that shred out there, it has so much more impact to the listener. And again, you know, some people love to listen to shred guitar. They could listen to it all day, but I honestly don't know one person that could listen to shred guitar all day. Even some great guitar players that are you know, above my level, I don't know anyone who enjoys just listening to shred guitar all the time. I don't know anyone who wants to hear an entire song of just shred guitar. So again, I want you to think about the song, okay? Think about the song. The structure of your solo needs to be kind of capturing that feel of that song, and that's not going to be all shred throughout the entire solo in most cases. You may have one song that you just rip it up the whole time. You don't want that to be every single song, though, because again, that will get old and boring. But you want to pull that listener in, okay? Because that listener is supporting you. They're supporting you by listening to your music. So you do have to drop your ego a bit and make it about them too. Try to make it about them as well. You know, your music, your subgenre is already going to capture those people that like that sort of thing. So once you got them in, it's like, okay, you played your style of music, you've got them, they're listening to your music. Now you want to kind of, you know, try to cater to them a little bit and captivate them and pull them in, saying, hey, I welcome you into my family of music, I appreciate you. And giving them a good solo that has those diverse points is kind of saying that. It's kind of saying, hey, thank you for listening to my music. And hey, thank you guys for listening to my music. I'm wearing my own shirt showcasing my last album, Masterpiece. I'm actually working on a new album right now. I'm doing this video at the end of 2020. Masterpiece was released in 2019, and I tried very hard to do that in this specific album as well. And there's links in the YouTube description for this. But I tried really hard when I was writing the solos for this album, and some parts I don't think I did that good of a job. Some parts I think I may have shredded a little too much, and maybe I should have held back in some spots. So this next album coming up, you know, I'm really going to be more conscious of that, because I really want to give you, all of you who listen to my music, that captivating experience. I want you to come on this journey with me and share my story with you through these guitar solos and the music. So anyway, guys, I hope this video helped you. I really do. And I know I kind of rambled for a while here on certain points, but I truly think this will help you, and let me know in the comments if it does. I would appreciate that. And if you have maybe some more tips that you want to add to this, please feel free to add to that. Until next time, as always, keep it metal.